How long before a body starts to smell? How to stop a body from decomposing? How to dispose of a dead body? How to dismember a 115-pound body? His wife weighed 115 pounds. These were not random searches. These were not late-night curiosity. These searches started at 4:55 in the morning on New Year's Day, while Anna Walshe was supposedly on her way to catch a flight. She never made it to that airport, and Brian Walshe already knew why. This is the story of Anna Walshe, and we are not looking away. Before we go further, if you are new to CrimeLytics, welcome. We cover the cases that sit at the intersection of love, trust, and the worst decisions people make against the ones closest to them. Hit subscribe right now, like this video, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Let us get into it. Anna Walshe grew up in Serbia. She came to the United States in 2005 and worked her way up through the hospitality industry in New York City. By the time she was in her 30s, she was a real estate executive at Tishman Spire, one of the most recognized real estate development firms in the country. She was the kind of woman who lit up a room. Her friends described her as personable, warm, deeply present with her children. She had 3 young boys, ages 2, 4, and 6, and by all accounts, they were her whole world. She was also the primary breadwinner in her marriage. Brian Walshe had a different kind of profile. In 2021, he pleaded guilty to 3 federal fraud charges after scheming to sell fake Andy Warhol paintings online. He was awaiting sentencing throughout much of 2022, which meant he was on home confinement in their Cohasset, Massachusetts home, and was required under the terms of his probation to serve as the primary caregiver for the children. Anna could not bring the kids to D.C. with her while Brian's case was still unresolved. So she was living and working in Washington while her children were over 400 miles away in Massachusetts. That separation was eating at her. Friends said she talked about it constantly, the fights she and Brian were having about when the family would finally be in the same place. The tension of being the one holding everything together financially while waiting on a situation she could not fully control. She'd purchased a 4-floor townhouse in Chevy Chase, D.C. in March of 2022. A family home she had fully furnished, with rooms painted and decorated for the children she could not yet bring there. She nested as quickly as she could for kids she could not see every day. That is the kind of woman Anna Walshe was. And then, in the summer of 2022, something else entered the picture. Anna had been spending 2 to 3 times a week with a D.C. real estate broker named William Fastow. What had started as a professional friendship after he helped her buy the townhouse had become something more. The two were in a relationship. Fastow testified at trial that they traveled to Dublin together for Thanksgiving. They spent Christmas Eve together at his home in D.C. before Anna drove back to Cohasset on Christmas Day. Anna had not told Brian about the affair. She was clear with Fastow that if Brian ever found out, she wanted it to come from her, not from anyone else, not inadvertently. By the time December 2022 turned into January 2023, Anna was caught between 2 lives: a marriage under tremendous financial and emotional strain, a secret relationship she had not yet resolved, and 3 children she was desperately trying to get back under the same roof with her. She never got the chance to figure any of it out. The warning signs in this relationship did not begin with the disappearance. They began years earlier, quietly in ways that Anna herself chose not to pursue. In 2014, Anna went to Washington, D.C. police and reported that her then-boyfriend had called her on the phone and threatened to kill her and a friend. That report did not name Brian Walshe by name, but it noted that her boyfriend was living in Massachusetts. Brian Walshe was living in Massachusetts at that time. Anna did not cooperate further with D.C. police, and the case was closed. A typical follow-up in a domestic violence situation requires contact with the victim, and Anna chose not to continue. That is not unusual. People who love someone rarely want to be the reason that person faces serious consequences. And Anna, by all accounts, deeply cared about Brian. She spoke well of him to the people around her. She wanted others to see him the way she saw him. More than a year after that 2014 report, Brian and Anna were engaged. They married shortly after that. Their first child came the following year. Then there was a photograph. At some point during their marriage, Anna posted to social media a photo of herself with a black eye. In the caption, she said she had a mild concussion, a bruised hip, and a cut. She blamed a fall at work. Her friends commented with concern. The photo was never officially linked to any domestic incident, and the couple went on to have 2 more children. But looking at that photograph now, knowing everything that followed, it sits differently. By 2022, the financial tension in the marriage had become a consistent source of conflict. Anna discovered charges on their shared credit card that she did not recognize. Brian had been spending money on sports memorabilia, apparently for some kind of business venture he had not fully disclosed to her. They argued about it. Anna was carrying the weight of supporting the family, while Brian awaited sentencing for crimes he'd already admitted committing. On December 27, 2022, just days before Anna went missing, Brian used his son's iPad to conduct an internet search. He searched for the best state to divorce for a man. He did not know or did not care that that search would later be recovered by investigators. And on December 29, 2022, Anna had a phone conversation with a close friend where she shared that things at home were difficult, that the separation from her children was taking a toll on her, that she was struggling. 2 days after that, on New Year's Eve, a close friend of Brian's came to the house in Cohasset for dinner. He brought fruit and chocolate for the children. The 3 of them, Anna, Brian, and this friend, gathered in the kitchen. Anna came running out of the house without a coat when the guest arrived. She was warm, festive, happy to see him. Brian was on the other side of the kitchen island, serving drinks, preparing food. That dinner was the last time anyone outside that household would see Anna Walshe alive. After the guests left on New Year's Eve, something happened inside that house. Anna's body has never been recovered, so the exact details of what happened to her in those hours will never be fully known. But what Brian Walshe did in the hours immediately after tells a story that does not leave room for much interpretation. Investigators found blood in the basement of that home, a damaged knife, a second knife, evidence that something violent had taken place in that space, and the forensic evidence collected from the property and from Brian's car confirmed that Anna's blood was present in both locations. But the most damning evidence was not physical, it was digital. Because at 4:55 in the morning on January 1st, while Anna Walshe was supposedly on her way to catch a flight, Brian Walshe opened his son's iPad, and here is what he searched. 4:55 a.m. How long before a body starts to smell? 4:58 a.m. How to stop a body from decomposing? 5:20 a.m. How to bound a body? 5:47. a.m., 10 ways to dispose of a dead body if you really need to. 6:25 a.m., how long for someone to be missing to inherit? 6:34 a.m., can you throw away body parts? 9:29 a.m., what does formaldehyde do? 9:34 a.m., how long does DNA last? 9:59 a.m., can identification be made on partial remains? 11:34 a.m., dismemberment and the best ways to dispose of a body. 11:44 a.m., how to clean blood from a wooden floor. 11:56 a.m., luminol to detect blood. 1:08 p.m., what happens when you put body parts in ammonia? 1:21 p.m., is it better to throw crime scene clothes away or wash them? Those were all on January 1st. Like, every single one of those searches. On the same day, his wife supposedly left for the airport. Make it make sense. He also searched how to dismember a 115-pound body. Anna Walshe weighed 115 pounds. A prosecutor who reviewed those searches said she had never in nearly 40 years of legal work seen that level of incriminating detail released at an arraignment. Every search was worse than the one before, and he kept going. On January 2nd, he searched whether a hacksaw was the best tool to dismember a body, whether you could be charged with murder without a body, whether you could identify a body with broken teeth. That same day, surveillance footage captured him at Home Depot. He was wearing a face mask and rubber gloves. His cart contained cleaning products, brushes, tape, a hazmat suit with boot covers, buckets, goggles, baking soda, and a hatchet. He removed the gloves and mask in the parking lot on his way out. Oh, so now you are shopping in protective gear. By January 3rd, Brian was moving across Massachusetts. His phone tracked him to apartment complexes in Abington and then Brockton. Surveillance footage showed a man matching his description carrying heavy garbage bags to dumpsters. He hefted each one in, then moved to the next location, then the next. He was not grieving, he was distributing. On January 4th, he went to Home Goods and TJ Maxx and bought towels, bath mats, and men's clothing, squeegees, a trash can. That same day, police arrived at the house for a welfare check. Officers noticed his Volvo immediately. Seats folded down, plastic liner in the back. Blood evidence would later be confirmed in that vehicle. When asked about the liner, Brian said he had already thrown it away. On January 5th, his phone tracked him to his mother's apartment complex in Swampscott. He spent approximately 5 minutes walking around the building to the southeast corner. There was a dumpster in the southeast corner of that complex. He was not done. Investigators did not need long to understand what they were looking at. When police arrived for the welfare check on January 4th, a retired homicide detective familiar with the case would later say that law enforcement was on to Brian Walshe from the moment they showed up at that house. They made startling observations before they even knocked on the door. Brian told police he had not seen Anna since New Year's Day. He said the only place he had gone in the days since was to get ice cream with his son. Oh, so now you went for ice cream. Surveillance footage showed him at Home Depot, at multiple dumpster locations, at stores buying cleaning supplies. His car in places his story never mentioned. His ankle monitor, which he was still required to wear as part of his probation, tracked his every movement. His phone tracked his every movement. His son's iPad stored every search he had made. The digital evidence was everywhere, and every piece of it contradicted the story he was telling. Then on January 7th, investigators received a suspicious email. The email claimed that a group had Anna Walshe and was holding her for a debt of $127,000. It said if she did not pay the money, she would never be back. It even said the group knew the police and FBI were involved. The email came from a Gmail account under the name Richard Walker 9984. Investigators flagged it immediately as suspicious. It looked like a distraction, something thrown into the case to muddy the water and redirect attention, but nobody bought it. The next day, investigators executed a search warrant on the Walshe family home in Cohasset. There was blood in the basement, a damaged knife, a second knife, heavy-duty plastic lining consistent with materials purchased at the Home Depot Brian had visited. The evidence inside that house confirmed what the digital trail had already been pointing to. Brian Walshe was arrested that same day and charged with misleading a police investigation. The world saw him at his arraignment. He walked in with what observers described as an air of arrogance, smirking, looking around the courtroom like a man who thought he could still talk his way out of it. Moving on, because from his mother's dumpster, investigators recovered 10 trash bags. Inside, blood-soaked towels and rags, a hacksaw, a hatchet, tape, a hazmat suit, gloves, cleaning agents, rugs, a pair of boots similar to the ones Anna was last seen wearing, a COVID-19 vaccination card in the name of Anna Walshe, and a piece of the Gucci pendant necklace she wore frequently, her card, her necklace, her boots, the hacksaw, all in the same dumpster outside his mother's building. Some of the bags from the Abington dumpsters had already been collected and taken to a facility for shredding and incineration before police could secure them. They were gone, destroyed. But hey, what remained was more than enough. Investigators also confirmed that Anna had taken out a nearly $3 million life insurance policy. With Brian Walshe listed as the sole beneficiary, he had motive from every direction. He believed she was involved with someone else. He was a convicted fraudster with mounting financial problems, while she was the one keeping the family running, and she was worth significantly more to him gone than she was alive. Prosecutors called it an absolutely crushing circumstantial case. Legal analysts described Brian Walshe as probably the most sloppy person to ever attempt a cover-up of this magnitude. Every textbook mistake, every turn. Anna's body has never been found. Prosecutors believe her remains were incinerated at the facility where the Abington bags were taken before police arrived. By the time investigators tracked the full trail, the most critical pieces were already gone. But the evidence that remained told the story clearly enough. Brian Walshe was indicted by a grand jury in late March of 2023 on charges of murder, misleading investigators, and improperly conveying a human body. He pleaded not guilty to all charges. He did eventually admit to the lesser counts. He admitted to misleading police. He admitted to the improper disposal of Anna's remains. What he would not admit to was killing her. His defense argued that Anna had died of sudden unexplained death, that she had passed unexpectedly, that Brian had panicked, and that everything that followed was the reaction of a frightened man rather than the planned actions of a guilty one. The jury did not accept that. At trial, the boyfriend William Fastow took the stand and testified about his relationship with Anna. He testified about their plans, about the last Happy New Year's message she sent him right at midnight on New Year's Eve, about Brian Walshe calling him twice on January 4th, asking if he had heard from Anna, leaving a voicemail steady and calm, saying she had not been in touch for a few days, and asking if Fastow had spoken to her recently. That voicemail was played in court. The jury deliberated and returned a verdict of guilty of first-degree murder. Brian Walshe was convicted of killing his wife. He faces life in prison without the possibility of parole in the state of Massachusetts. Brian Walshe thought he had thought of everything: the searches, the cleanup, the dumpsters across multiple towns, the fake email, the story about ice cream with his son. He had not thought of enough, because his son's iPad remembered everything. His ankle monitor remembered everything. The surveillance cameras remembered everything. The hacksaw and the boots and her vaccination card in that dumpster at his mother's building remembered everything. He is probably the most sloppy person to have ever attempted something like this, and the jury saw through every single layer of it. Here on CrimeLytics, we cover the cases that happen between people who were supposed to be safe with each other, the ones that happen in houses that look fine from the outside, the ones that start with warning signs that are easy to miss and end in ways nobody should have to survive. If this case moved you, share it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell us what part of this story hit you the hardest. We read everyone. And if you are new here, subscribe. We have more cases coming, and every single one matters.